All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here with Josh Jabal, our Chief Operating Officer, and Miguel Cordona, our Commissioner of Education, will pipe in a little later as we talk about our schools. I just wanted to go through, first of all, the daily numbers. What is interesting here? Obviously, positive cases is reflected of tests performed. I think what I found most interesting is the current hospitalized is up 46, which is a lot less than what we've seen in the past, and it continues a trend, I think the most important trend, which tells you the number of people hospitalized and what that says about trend line, what that says about capacity of our hospitals. That's good news. Positive cases by county, again, a little misleading sometimes because that can be a reflection of cases by county. Max, you're going to move that one over? Thank you. You can see Fairfield is still the highest, New Haven, and Hartford. Next slide, please. This next chart we've gone over before. It's the COVID hospitalizations. Again, it's not a hockey stick, it's linear, and you can tell by the bottom line that the rate of increase in hospitalizations is not going up, and in fact, it may be going down a little bit. And what that says about the fact we may be reaching a peak. Hospitalizations by county, now we're getting more interesting. As you can see, some interesting evidence here. Most interesting to me is that top line, which is Fairfield County. And Fairfield County, as you know, was the county first hit. Probably they have a week or two ahead of, say, New Haven County. What you'll see at the top there on Fairfield County is not only is the hospitalization line flattening, it's down slightly, and I mean slightly. But the net increase in hospitalizations in Fairfield County, which was the most severely hit of our counties to date, hospitalization was down by one. Down by one. That means there's one less occupied bed today than there was a day ago. And as Josh reminds me over and over again, one day does not a trend make, but it is a glimmer of hope that perhaps we're reaching a peak in Fairfield County and what that says about the future. This next chart is interesting. It's admissions and discharges now. And you can see that, maybe you can't see, but let's say we've had 3,000 total admissions to date since we got hit by this virus about a month ago. And of those 3,000 folks that were hospitalized, went to the hospital, 1,250 have been discharged. So about 42% of the 3,000 folks that have been hospitalized to date have already come out. They're on the mend, we hope, and healing at home, and last of their self-quarantining. Tragically, about 10% of the people who go to the hospital died, and that was a fatality number that we've been tracking carefully. We talked about that a little bit yesterday in terms of how it impacts different communities. Let's go to the next chart, I think. The next chart is, I really wanted to get into PPE. We talked about this yesterday, the protective gear, and what a mess it's been out there trying to get the protective gear. What this chart shows you is that we've been inundated with folks who have had access to protective gear. Protective gear being everything from the masks, the gowns, and you know, of those 1,000 plus that were identified, a lot of them were pretty shaky, to tell you the truth. They seemed to have a friend of a friend who knew somebody in Ukraine. But of those, we sourced 259. We validated them. We've had 20 or 30 people doing this nonstop, 12 hours a day. And we placed 78 orders to date. And those orders are beginning to come in. Those orders are beginning to come in. Next chart, please. This tells you a little bit about what we've ordered and what we've acquired to date. You can see we've ordered about 19 million pieces of PPE, starting with respirators, N95 respirators. We got 200,000 N95 mask respirators yesterday, and those are getting distributed as we speak. And fortunately, our hospitals are also able to get a lot of their own PPE themselves. So that has given us a little bit more flexibility to get this out to first responders, nursing homes, all of our different folks in the commissions who are front-facing. We have 11,000 employees, state employees, who are still working every day, be it corrections, be it mental health counselors, and others who are on the front line. And these are the folks who are making sure we're getting the PPE, the protective gear they need. And a little bit of good news. It's a sort of just-in-time inventory, I'm afraid, because we don't have much capacity, not much of a stockpile there, but people are managing their flow of PPE really well. And we went through all the commissioners this morning, and everybody has a stock, at least to keep their people safe going forward. You heard from Barbara yesterday in terms of the nursing homes, and most of them are managing their supply of gowns and masks really thoughtfully. And obviously a few of them are not, and we're targeting them, reaching out, finding out who they are, getting them the supplies they need, and see what better protocols we can do for people. And the protocols are a broad mix. I mean, obviously, when we have COVID-only nursing homes and COVID-only correctional facilities, that saves a lot of protective gear as well, since you don't have to change it constantly as you go from non-COVID to COVID-related space. We're doing, as I said the other day, the same thing with the homeless. So I feel that we're managing our PPE really well at this point. And I think that within the next week, 2 weeks, this supply of PPE that's on order, we have a high degree of confidence. Josh has a high degree of confidence. We know the orders are coming in. I know you've heard me saying today, get redirected at the last moment, but now as supply is beginning to catch up with demand, and we'll be able to get that stockpiled out to you even sooner, and then broaden the lens of people to get the PPE as well. So it's not just our first-line responders, but let's say food service workers and daycare and others who are on the front line as well, and give them more protection as we see this peak going across the state on a further basis going forward. I mentioned to you that we have, 11,000, state workers still frontline going out there. We're going to have a terrible storm tonight. And that means we have, hundreds of extra utility folks who are also working their heart out every day, getting them the gear they need just to make sure we can keep the power going for you. So this is a government, this is an economy that has to keep moving despite what you see from COVID and what we're trying to do. A couple of other touch points. Food. We've talked a lot about food. You've read some of the articles in the national press about there's some food supplies that are being constrained right now. Not as much donation of foods, not as many restaurants open to get people food. Our supply of food right now is pretty good. I'm afraid that our food share and food bank have to buy a little more of their food than they had to before. Less of it is being donated, but our shelves are stocked at the grocery stores, and we do have the food at our food share, food pantry as well. I want you to know that. I know that there's such distress when it comes to, food insecurity. Susan Beiswitz and our Commissioner of Agriculture were at one of the food distribution places the other day, a depot, and I was told that there were 1,000 cars lined up over the course of the day there. And that's why Lisa Tepper Bates and others are trying to get volunteers and others to help in the sorting of the food and the distribution of the food. The small business loans, I'll give you just a brief update on that. We talked to thousands of small business folks today, including our representative from the Small Business Administration. Little credit where credit's due. The Small Business Administration has been very collaborative with us. We all have some catching up to do when it comes to the technology and getting these things processed. But for our loan program, that short-term loan program is a bridge to the federal loan. We've had several thousand, we've had 5,000 applications. Several thousand will probably be accepted. We have a new fintech partner that allows us to electronically process these loans faster. And David Lamont believes we'll start getting those checks out to you over the next couple of weeks. For the federal PPE, the Paycheck Protection Program, there we had, Thousands of Connecticut companies applied for that. Hundreds of millions of loans are being processed. They do believe those loan payments, those are forgivable loans, by the way, for small business, will start going out by the end of this month as well. And I was just reminded on the call by a representative from small business, these loans also cover you not just for payroll, not just for benefits, but also for your state and local taxes. So you'll have some protection there as well. Andy Mays, our insurance commissioner, brought up something interesting. We're fighting every day to make sure we can squeeze every dollar we can and help you survive. 50% less traffic on our roads, 50% fewer accidents, and reduced automobile premiums going forward. So I appreciate Andy keeping an eye on that for us as well. And finally, I'll talk about dates. We had April 20th is our date where we said we'll give you notification if we think schools can open by April 20th. They can't, and Miguel Cardona is going to announce today, and I am on his behalf, that May 20th will be the new date for schools potentially reopening, at least a decision point. We'll see if we have any room between then and the end of June, as well as a small business, including bars and restaurants. I think you got to be able to count on the fact that May 20th would be the earliest that we'd reconsider opening anything. And even though we are seeing a little bit of good news, as I showed you, Fairfield County and the bending of the curve, a little more capacity at our hospitals, more PPE coming in, managing that well. I don't want us to get complacent, and I wouldn't be surprised if that May 20 date extends as well. But right now, the date is May 20. But as Miguel's going to tell you, that does not mean education is stopped. He estimates that almost every one of our school districts, most of our teachers, all of our schools are continuing learning in a variety of different ways. You know, starting in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be delivering over 180,000 reading materials, text materials, learning materials provided by Scholastic. Those are going to all of our commissioner school districts and distressed school districts to make sure those kids get the learning materials they need. That's everything from reading learning to a course curriculum. Scholastic is working with their teachers starting very soon to get them up to speed on how to use this material, both the book learning as well as the online streaming distant learning piece that's available for pre-K right up through 8th grade. As you know, we're also going to be providing the laptops over the course of the next couple of weeks and a learning curriculum for our high school students as well. We're going to have some really good news to announce in terms of free learning online curriculum for our college students, which we'll make available to you very soon. And Miguel wanted me to remind you that learning is about, the reading, writing, arithmetic, but it's also about the social and emotional support that our kids need. So when we're doing online, we're also doing by telephone, we're also doing by FaceTime. Our counselors are there working with the kids in need every day going forward. So nothing would have made me happier than be able to open up the schools sooner. I'm afraid May 20th is the soonest we can possibly do, even with some of the good news we see trickling over the transom. With that, Miguel, do you want to follow up on what I said on the schools?
Yes. Thank you, Governor Lamont. Good afternoon. I'm Miguel Cardona, Commissioner of the State Department of Education. First and most importantly, I hope you and your loved ones are in good health, both physically and emotionally. I address you now following significant reflection and consultation with public health experts and education stakeholders. To the approximately 530,000 students in the state of Connecticut, I would first like to address you directly. These are trying times, unlike any others we've seen in our lifetime. And your health and safety is our #1 priority. Each and every single decision we make is happening with that safety in mind. Please remain hopeful. While the future seems uncertain right now, together we will emerge from this crisis and will gradually resume some normalcy in both our daily lives and in the delivery of your education. With that in mind, and with the close collaboration of both the Department of Public Health and Governor Lamont, the decision has been made to continue the cancellation of school classes for the next month until May 20th. at which point we will reevaluate the situation and determine if returning to the classroom this year is even possible. Please be mindful that the extension of class cancellation also pertains to all school events, including athletics and any other previously planned activities. This decision has not been made lightly, and it helps protect the valuable lives not only of our students, but of our dedicated staff and the hero healthcare workers that are working really hard to try to keep us healthy. If students are sent to school prematurely, we could be sending them in harm's way. We will not resume any school activity unless it is determined that it is safe for everyone involved, including our teachers and our students. Until that time, all efforts to provide distance learning should continue. We know we may need to cancel classes for the remainder of the year, and while we're not announcing that today, we are planning for the worst case scenario. So to the wonderful class of 2020, you will have a graduation. You deserve it, you worked hard for it, and you're gonna get it. The governor and I, along with our dedicated educators, are committed to this. All superintendents and high school principals are already planning what it might look like if classes are canceled for the remainder of the year. They're also getting direct input from high school students. I heard from high schoolers last week, and I know how important this is to you. The exemplary dedication from Connecticut educators will continue, and students, you will get your moment. If necessary, it'll be postponed until it is safe, but you deserve your moment for your years of hard work. You will get our best. I'm proud to say that our Department of Education has continued to provide guidance and support to assist students, parents, and teachers with the execution of distance learning. All of those materials are posted on the forward-facing page of our website and include resources for families and educators in supporting all students' social emotional well-being and academic learning, including English learners and students in need of special education services. Our website includes 2 professional development series, one series to assist families and another series to support districts working with specific students during this challenging time. We have information and resources available in both English and Spanish, and will continue to produce more resources as needed. We will keep focusing on our students with exceptionalities and our English learners. We know we have to continue to do better. Now, to our school nutrition workers who've served over 1 million meals to date, to our administrative staff, our teachers, custodians, our para-educators, our student and social and emotional support teams, our district leaders, and all additional district staff, I know our current situation is truly difficult to digest. What you've done in the last month has never been done before and has by far exceeded our expectations. You demonstrated to the world why you got into this profession for the students. We know you miss your students and are eager to get back with them in the school setting, but this decision has ultimately been made on a public health front with all of you and the students that you love in mind. Rest assured that I and the entire department are here to support you and continue to stand ready to provide you with the guidance and support that you need. Thank you for your service, and we're not done. With a greater sense of urgency and passion for equity and access, we will continue to educate. I'm proud to say that 100% of our districts in Connecticut are engaged in some form of distance learning, as the governor said. And I learned today that New Haven put together 1,000 packets of K to grade 2 materials for students that don't have access to technology or a computer. There's 500 packets that were created for students in grades 3 through 12 that don't have access to technology. I talked to the superintendent in Sonia about an hour ago, who said that they've worked to distribute packets of information for students that don't have access to technology. And I know countless districts are doing the same, in addition to the 187,000 packets of instructional materials that are on their way to Connecticut to be distributed, as the governor mentioned, thanks to a donation from the Newey family and to the work of Scholastic. And that's in addition to the 60,000 laptops that the Connecticut Partnership agreed to purchase for our Connecticut students. Thank you. I read yesterday, and it's worth repeating, virtual teaching will never replace the love, laugh, learning, and the smiles on students' faces and the aha moments that happen in actual classrooms. The quarantine is not a break for teachers and students, it's actually heartbreak. And as Ben Opry said, the most authentic thing about us is our ability to create, to overcome, to endure, to transform, to love, and to be greater than our suffering. We will get through this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Any questions, Max?
We'll start with Sue Haig from the Associated Press.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Sue.
Governor, regarding the PPE, you said that you are, a lot of it is coming in. Did Connecticut work with other states? What do we do in order to get this stuff? Is it all just working directly with ordering it from businesses, or did you have to do something, pull some strings somehow?
Well, I'll start, and then Josh can pick up. We're working very closely with our other New England states here, helping to vet, helping to source. As you could see, most of the offers have to be, let's say, carefully vetted going forward. You see that overwhelmingly, by far, most of the PPE we get going forward is going to be what we have been able to privately purchase. And for lack of the federal government taking the lead on this, we're working on a regional basis and also directly. Josh, you want to add?
Yeah, I think as the governor said, Sue, it's kind of all of the above. You know, we've placed several orders in collaboration with other states. We've been working through our usual distributors who candidly have not been delivering on time as committed, and so we've moved to alternate models, working with companies who have relationships with factories in China who have been generous with their time and connections to help connect us and orchestrate deals. So we've really been turning over every stone, chasing every opportunity, and as the governor said, I think we're getting close to seeing a very significant wave of PPE coming into the state. But in the meantime, as the governor said, we do have enough. We've been supplying, the people on the front lines and have ensured that everybody has some supply, not as much advanced lead time for the supply as we'd hope, but we're going to get to a more comfortable position soon.
And how much have we spent on this?
So of the 18.8 million units that the governor quoted, those purchase orders represent about 50 million of spend. And it's worth acknowledging that 75% of that's reimbursable by the federal government.
Thank you.
Next question from 1080 WTIC.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Governor, the two contrasting, predictions from two North American leaders. The president seems to be anxious to, as he puts it, get everyone back to work. I'm sure he's disappointed about Easter and all that. The Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, said today Canadians are going to be inside for months, and he sees this going well into the summer. Where are you on that spectrum?
I want people to get back to work as soon as they can do so safely. I do worry that if we rush back to work, as some of the rhetoric has implied, you could have a second and third wave of this pandemic. So we'll be outlining over the next week or two how we carefully plan to get people back to work, antibody testing, and do it on a safe way. We're just not going to open the doors on May 20.
Move on to Fox 61.
Hi, Governor. We're getting discharge numbers from hospitals and the data you provided today. We saw that percentage, but when can we see recovery numbers? And if so, explain the difficulty behind getting accurate recovery numbers.
Want to talk to that?
Yeah, there really isn't a mechanism to track all recoveries. Keep in mind, the majority of people who get diagnosed with COVID-19 never go to a hospital. They're sent home to self-recover. There's not a mechanism to track every one of those people. And even then, as has been pointed out by our public health team previously, even the people who are tested is just the tip of the iceberg. There's many people who will get it, may not even exhibit strong symptoms, or will simply stay at home and self-recover. So we don't have the instrumentation to track every single person who gets it and when they recover.
And Kurt Westby yesterday mentioned the Department of Labor is working on another technical fix. He called it Plan B. He said you guys are testing it right now, and if launched, it could cut the time frame for unemployment claims to 2 to 3 days. Is there any update on that?
I think it's looking pretty good right now. He has already processed 130,000 claims. Obviously, there's over 300,000 in, so we have a backlog to go. And right now, the technical fix is working, and you'll be getting batches of emails out to different people, seeking unemployment comp to send back, and we're turning that around very quickly. I'm hopeful, he's hopeful that if this keeps working, we can clean up the backlog in a couple of weeks.
We'll move on to Hearst, Connecticut Media.
Thanks, Max. Hey, hi, Governor. Can I ask you what you think about the immigrants who are here without legal status? There's a petition going around, and these are our neighbors. And what kind of things are you thinking about to be able to help them?
Well, I was very happy to hear the White House say and the COVID force say without any question that undocumented immigrants are safe going to our hospitals. No ICE there, nobody picking them up. Because there's nothing more important than if you're feeling ill, get a doctor's prescription or get permission anyway, but at risk, you go to the emergency room, you go to a hospital. We don't want more people walking around infected because they fear they wouldn't be safe going to a hospital. So that I can give you strong assurance has been cleared up.
Thanks, Governor. And when you're talking about the 1,250 people who are discharged, how sick are they when they leave? I mean, they're off the ventilator for X number of days, or are you that granular in your knowledge at this point?
I don't think I'm that granular. Josh can probably help me out with this, but you go in there, and those are the people that spend anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. Some go on a ventilator, some don't, but they were tested positive for COVID. And we got them to a place where they're probably safer going to an intermediate facility, or in this case, going home to recuperate.
Thanks, Governor.
Hartford Current.
Hi, Governor. First of all, the federal government said today that they are pulling back federal support of testing sites. How, if at all, will that affect testing in Connecticut?